So could I first introduce Benjamin Schwartz from Meta, who is RFC 9704 validated Split-Horizon DNS.
All right, how long do I have? Okay, it says 10. Okay, here we go. So, Split-Horizon DNS, you may have heard of it. There are basically two versions of it that I like to think about. One is internal-only domains. So like I've worked at some places that had an internal wiki on a domain name that did not exist in the public DNS. It was NX domain. But if you were inside the network or on the VPN, then it would resolve to some IP address that you could reach. Another thing that I've seen pretty commonly is names that have a special view internally. So externally, they do resolve to something, like maybe it's actually your main service, but internally you want to give employees a special view, like you want to send them to a beta test server so that if there are any bugs, you make your employees angry before you make the rest of the world angry. But what if the clients aren't using the network resolver? Because clients increasingly tend to distrust the local network by default. This has existed forever in the form of like, I will have my DNS server preferences in etcresolve.conf, but I think there's a trend here. We've seen validating stubs and now available in iOS. There are encrypted DNS settings, pretty easily accessible in a lot of different client software. Third-party VPN apps are very common for users, and there are these new hyperscale platform proxies that look like they may roll out quite broadly. These are all incompatible with Split-Horizon DNS, and that's because Split-Horizon DNS is indistinguishable from DNS hijacking, at least if you are a client who doesn't already trust the local network. So how do you make Split-Horizon DNS work with these clients? You don't. They're not talking to the local DNS server. There's no way that they will ever see these Split-Horizon names, right? It's impossible. Until RFC 9704, maybe. Let's talk about it. So RFC 9704, one slide. This is the only slide with information in this talk. So basically, the client connects to the network. The network says, hey, your local DNS server is this thing, and here's its IP address, and it supports DNS over TLS. This is called DNR. It's pre-existing, recent IETF specification. Now, with RFC 9704, with validated Split-Horizon, you have the ability to have the network tell the client, this DNS server claims to have an authorized split view for internal.corp.example, and here's a way that I'm going to prove it to you. And the way that that proof works is that the client then goes to corp.example, the zone, and attempts to resolve this specially formed domain name, which combines the name of the local resolver and the name of the authorizing zone. It tries to get a TXT record off of that name. And that TXT record has a token in it, which is a base64 hash. That hash includes both the name, which this resolver is authorized to override, and a salt that essentially links these two things cryptographically. And then finally, when the client actually connects to that local DNS server, it just asks it to prove its ownership of the DNS name that it got from DNR in the first place, using standard DNS over TLS. Once that's all proved, now the client can direct queries for wiki.internal.corp.example to this internal resolver, because it knows that corp.example has explicitly pseudo-delegated this namespace to the internal resolver, and it has validated the identity of that internal resolver as well. There are no known implementations of this. And I think that's because there are basically multiple independent parties who have no particular connection to each other who have to do work independently. Essentially, there's a first mover disadvantage problem. And this is very common in multi-party protocols in standards development. You write down a thing that different people would have to do to talk to each other, but nobody wants to be the first one to do it. It's useless until somebody else steps in and also does it. So with this new specification, Split-Horizon DNS doesn't need a leap of faith anymore. You don't need to say, well, I hope that this isn't an attack. but actually getting implemented might require a miracle. It's only been 1 week, though. So I might be a little bit too harsh here. I hope that this presentation connects to someone here who thinks, I do have a problem that looks a little bit like this. Maybe you could be one of the first people to implement this, or bang on your vendor's doors and tell them that you would like them to implement it. If we can get a ball rolling here, then we might solve a problem for some people with split horizon names. Thanks.